Poverty is not a lack of money, it is a disease of the mind. Success does not flee the poor flee success through fear, laziness, and comfort. You are not battling the world, you are battling the weaker version of yourself that wakes up with excuses, bows to fear, and worships the opinions of small minds. That version of you must die. It is not your friend, it is your executioner. Every dream you bury, every desire you ignore, every risk you avoid, feeds that weak self like poison in your bloodstream. You were not born to survive. You were born to rise, to dominate, to command life by mastering thought. Look within. Do you see the coward or the creator, the excuse, maker or the empire, builder? Choose, because right now you are either killing the weak self or the weak self is killing your future. There is no poverty outside the mind of man. What you call hardship, misfortune, or bad luck is but the mirrored image of thoughts you have permitted to rule your inner world. You are not born cursed. You are born powerful, but taught to think weak. The man who believes the world owes him something owes his soul to ignorance. No government, no employer, no parent, no devil has shackled you. Only the silent chains of your own thinking have done that. And as long as you feed the weak ideas of doubt, fear, hesitation, and blame, you will remain a prisoner of a self you were never meant to become. Wealth is not a reward from the world, it is an echo of your belief. Power is not granted by another, it is activated by the one who claims it with purpose. You rise the moment you decide to rise. The mind is the master key. It opens every prison or seals it tighter. With faith, it builds empires. Without it, it builds excuses. You must come to understand, success is not something you chase. It is something you release by killing everything in you that resists it. There is a thief more cunning than poverty and more persistent than failure. He does not strike loudly. He creeps in softly, cloaked in logic and disguised as safety. He whispers instead of shouts. He makes a man wait when he ought to act and hesitate when he ought to speak. His name is indecision, and he is the silent killer of desire, ambition, and destiny. Men do not perish from a lack of opportunity. They perish because when opportunity knocks, they sit still, thinking, doubting, weighing, fearing. While they wait for the perfect moment, the moment dies. While they wonder whether they are good enough, someone with half their talent and twice their resolve has already claimed the prize. This is the curse of the undecided, to live in the land of what could have been, ruled by the ghost of chances never taken. Indecision is not harmless, it is deadly, it is a form of spiritual suicide. Every time you say, I don't know, you are killing a piece of your purpose. Every time you say, maybe later, you are feeding the weak self that wants you tame, quiet, and average. That weak self is always negotiating with fear, never with faith. It convinces you to delay action under the false banner of being careful, when what you are really doing is giving up your authority over life. Understand this. Success is never born in neutrality. No man ever built an empire by standing still. No woman ever claimed greatness by waiting for the fog to clear. Those who rise, rise because they decide to rise. The power of decision is the ignition switch of the soul. It is the very spark that turns invisible thought into visible results. Now, let us peel back the skin of this deception and see it for what it truly is. Indecision is the byproduct of a mind without definite purpose. A mind that has not anchored itself in a burning desire. When your desire is weak, your decisions become optional. You drift, you stall, you lose momentum. You surrender your will to circumstances and call it being realistic. But a man with a definite chief aim, a man who knows what he wants and why he wants it, does not suffer the paralysis of overanalysis. He moves, he acts, he risks. He understands that the cost of inaction is far greater than the price of temporary failure. For failure can be a teacher, but indecision teaches nothing. It merely buries dreams in silence. You must come to grips with this eternal law. The universe responds to boldness. It rewards decisiveness because it is the signature of belief. When you make a firm decision backed by faith, unseen forces move in your favor, doors open, resources appear, people align. Why? Because you are no longer a scattered frequency. You are a focused power. The man who makes decisions is the man who commands life instead of begging from it. And let us speak plainly. Indecision is cowardice in disguise. It pretends to be intelligence, but it is born of fear. The fear of making a mistake, the fear of being judged, the fear of losing. But what the fearful man does not realize is that in his attempt to avoid loss, he guarantees it. For while he calculates and reconsiders, the current of life moves on without him. There is no virtue in hesitation. There is only wasted time. Time, the one thing no man can earn back. Every moment you delay is a moment handed over to mediocrity. And make no mistake, mediocrity is not an accident, it is a consequence. It is the sum of small delays, silent doubts, and decisions never made. I have studied the habits of wealthy men, great builders, fearless leaders, and I will tell you this, not one of them is undecided. Their power is not merely in what they know, but in how quickly they act upon what they believe. They are not reckless, but neither are they paralyzed. They possess the strength to choose, and then the will to follow through. To kill the weak version of yourself, you must declare war on indecision. You must draw a line in the sand and say, no more delay, no more doubt, no more living as a spectator in my own life. You must step into the full authority of your mind, plant your feet in the soil of purpose, and speak to the world with action, not hesitation. Faith without decision is useless. Desire without direction is fantasy. But when you weld faith, desire, and decisive action into a single force, you become unstoppable. You become a creator rather than a consumer, a leader rather than a follower, a force rather than a figure. Decide and the world bends, delay, and you are buried by it. Fear is not a monster that lives outside of you. It is not a storm that strikes without warning. It is not the voice of truth. Fear is a liar, whispering through the cracks of your unresolved thoughts, feeding on your silence, multiplying in the corners of your unexamined mind. And the greatest tragedy of all is that most men call this fear wisdom. Let me tell you, fear is not wisdom. It is not instinct, it is not caution, it is the death of action dressed up in respectable clothing. It masquerades as logic. It calls itself being realistic. But in reality, fear is the invisible chain that binds your will, weakens your resolve, and keeps you orbiting a life far beneath your potential. Every man hears two voices. One calls him to rise, to dare, to build, to conquer. That voice speaks in the language of desire, purpose, faith. The other calls him to hide, to wait, to shrink, to postpone. That voice speaks in the dialect of fear, and whichever voice you obey, that is the world you will live in. You must understand this law. Fear does not leave because you ignore it. It grows stronger. Like a weed in a garden, it thrives when unattended. The thoughts you avoid, the decisions you delay, the truths you won't face, those become the feeding grounds of fear. And in time, that fear becomes so familiar, so comfortable, that you forget it is even there. You begin to believe it is you, but it is not you. You were born with the power of decision, with the gift of imagination, with the divine flame of definite purpose. You were not built to cower, you were built to create. The part of you that hesitates is not your protector, it is your jailer. Fear thrives in the absence of clarity. When a man does not know what he wants, he becomes vulnerable to everything he does not want. That is why purpose is not optional. It is your sword. A mind armed with definite purpose cuts through fear like steel through fog. It does not negotiate with the unknown, it shapes it. But here is the bitter truth. Most men would rather sit in the prison of their fears than face the discipline of purpose. They would rather feel safe than free. They would rather be liked than be great. And so they obey fear as if it were law. They speak its language. They plan around it. They defend it with excuses, with reason, with delay. I say this without apology. Fear is the first enemy of success. Not failure. Failure is a teacher, but fear prevents the lesson. Fear prevents the journey. Fear convinces a man to turn back before he has even begun. I have seen brilliant men waste their lives because they feared rejection. I have seen strong men live small because they feared criticism. I have seen creative souls bury their talents because they feared being misunderstood, and all the while life passed them by, offering no apology and no second draft. You see, fear survives on your belief. It has no power on its own. It is a parasite of the mind, attaching itself to your imagination and using it against you. It builds stories, not facts. It forecasts failure without evidence. It is the master of what if, and the thief of what could be. But faith is the antidote. Faith is the fire that burns through the fog, and faith, my friend, is not blind. It is born of understanding. It is born of the knowledge that your mind is the master power, and that no external condition has the right to determine your future unless you permit it through belief. Faith is not passive. It is not a wish. It is a weapon. It is the decision to act boldly in the face of fear, not because fear is gone, but because truth is greater. The truth is this: you are capable, you are equipped, you are chosen by your own thought. And every minute you walk in fear, you reject the miracle of your own potential. You cannot kill fear by wishing it away. You kill it by confronting it. You kill it by shining the light of definite thought upon it. You kill it by moving forward while it screams, and with every step it grows smaller, because fear cannot survive in motion. It cannot survive in purpose. It cannot survive in a mind that refuses to bow to lies. Look closely at your life. Where you see delay, hesitation, stagnation, fear is there. Where you keep telling yourself you are not ready, fear is speaking. Where you avoid risk, challenge, and confrontation, fear is holding the pen and writing your story for you. But the author of your life is not fear, it is you, and you must decide what voice gets the final word. You must become deaf to doubt and loyal to your desire. You must confront what you've been avoiding, speak what you've been silencing, and walk where fear has told you to stop. Because the truth has never changed. Fear is a liar, and it dies the moment you tell the truth to yourself. Doubt is not a momentary feeling, it is a habit, and like every habit, it begins with one small compromise. A whisper, a hesitation, a thought you did not choose but accepted, and once allowed to speak, doubt does not leave. It builds a home in your mind, it infects your thoughts, it questions your worth, your judgment, your dreams, until you no longer live with purpose, but with permission. And that permission is always granted by fear. Make no mistake, the man who doubts himself has already lost, not because he lacks ability, but because he lacks authority over his own mind. He lets the seed of uncertainty take root, and in time that seed becomes a tree so large it blocks every opportunity, every decision, every act of faith. The doubting mind is not slow, it is paralyzed. Not because life has no answers, but because the man refuses to trust his own. The habit of doubt is the silent destroyer of success. It comes dressed as humility, but it is born of fear. It comes pretending to protect you, but it only postpones your power. It is not the enemy at the gates. It is the traitor inside the fortress, the one who says, "What if I fail?" when you should be saying, "What if I rise?" You see, every great man and woman has walked to the edge of the unknown. And in that moment, they heard the same voice you hear: turn back, play safe, wait for a sign. But those who became great did not wait. They did not ask fear for permission. They did not second, guess the dream placed in their heart. They trusted in desire, acted with faith, and pursued their purpose with persistence. That is the formula, that is the foundation of power, but doubt poisons that formula, it robs desire of urgency, it replaces faith with questions, it waters down purpose until it is no longer definite, and it kills persistence by offering the mind an escape hatch called uncertainty. That is why the doubting man never finishes what he starts. He leaves half-built dreams scattered across the timeline of his life, and here is the great tragedy: doubt becomes easier with repetition. Every time you second-guess yourself, you strengthen the part of your mind that wants to remain average. You give power to the weak self, the self that fears failure more than it craves freedom. That self does not want growth, it wants comfort. It does not want achievement, it wants escape, and it will use doubt as its greatest tool. Let us speak plainly. To doubt is to distrust the intelligence of infinite mind. It is to say that the vision placed in your heart is a mistake, that your purpose is a misfire, that your desire is a coincidence. But nothing about you is accidental. You are not here to wonder what could be. You are here to decide what will be, and then persist until it is done. Doubt is the thief of momentum. It stops more dreams than failure ever has. Failure may break the body, but doubt corrodes the spirit. It convinces a man to question his path halfway through the journey. It makes a woman hide her gift under the pressure of others' opinions. It takes extraordinary minds and trains them to live in ordinary cages. And where does it begin? Always in the dialogue you permit within yourself. That is where the war is won or lost. Your inner conversation determines your outer condition. The man who speaks to himself with conviction will lead himself to victory. The one who entertains doubt will sabotage his success before the world ever gets the chance to. So examine your thoughts. Do you entertain hesitation like an old friend? Do you ask for 5 opinions before acting on the truth you already know? Do you start bold, then shrink small when the voices around you echo your fears? This is the test, not of knowledge but of belief. You do not need more information, you need more decision. You need to look at the weak self and say, you no longer have authority here. Because every time you obey doubt, you cast a vote against your destiny. The mind was not made to wander, it was made to command. You must discipline it like a general disciplines his army. You must say, this is the vision, this is the path, and I will not turn back. Not for fear, not for failure, not for doubt. You must believe so strongly in your aim that there is no space left for second-guessing. Faith is not just a feeling, it is a mental state. It is the choice to trust your higher self over your weaker instincts. It is the force that says, I will walk this path because it is mine, even if I walk it alone. When you choose faith, you kill doubt. And when you kill doubt, you give birth to power, power to decide, power to act, power to persist. Because success is not given, it is claimed by the one who refuses to doubt what he knows in his soul to be true. Comfort is the most dangerous prison a man will ever live in, because he decorates it. He calls it peace, he calls it stability, he even calls it success. But what he does not call it, what he refuses to name, is what it truly is: a cage. And worse yet, it is a cage he built himself, brick by brick, with every excuse, every delayed decision, every fear he dressed up as caution. You must come to terms with this. No man rises by staying where he is. The weak self you feed every day, the one that tells you to take it easy, to wait until the timing is right, to not push too hard, that self is not your friend, it is your captor. It is the version of you that fears growth because growth hurts. It fears change because change demands death. The death of the old, the war. Now the average. Comfort does not satisfy the soul, it sedates it. And every time you choose comfort over challenge, you hand over another piece of your potential to the weaker self. You shrink not visibly at first, but internally, spiritually, mentally, the fire dims, the dream delays, the urgency fades, and soon you are not living. You are merely maintaining. You must understand the cost of comfort. It is not free, it is not neutral, it is not harmless. Comfort is a thief with clean hands. It steals your desire by convincing you there's nothing more to reach for. It steals your purpose by making you forget why you started. It steals your persistence by soothing your ambition with soft lies. You've done enough. You're doing fine. There's always tomorrow, but there isn't always tomorrow, and you haven't done enough. Not if your dream is still waiting for you to wake up. Faith cannot breathe in a mind addicted to ease. Faith demands action. It demands you step beyond what feels safe. It demands you declare, I was not born for mediocrity. I was born to manifest my thought into form. That declaration cannot be made from the couch of comfort. It must be made in the arena of risk. It must be shouted above the noise of resistance, self-pity, and distraction. Desire is a flame, but comfort is water. When you indulge the habit of comfort, you pour water on your inner fire one drop at a time. It doesn't feel like destruction. That's what makes it so dangerous. It feels like rest, like reward, like you've earned the right to coast, but you haven't. Not if your vision is still unfulfilled. Not if the world hasn't seen the fullness of your gift. Not if you still wake up with that quiet voice saying, there's more in you, and there is more in you, but that more can only be accessed through pressure, through effort, through resistance. The same way a seed must break its shell to grow, you must break the habits of ease that keep you small. There is no purpose in stagnation. There is no strength without strain. There is no greatness where comfort rules. The weak self you have been feeding, he is clever, he does not shout, he whispers, he tells you, slow down, don't overdo it, you deserve a break. And yes, you do deserve a break, after the mission is done. But if the mission has not been accomplished, rest becomes a form of sabotage. It looks innocent, but it keeps you average. The world rewards those who persist past the point where others stop, past comfort. Past boredom, past fear, purpose does not visit the lazy. It comes to the man who dares to suffer for it, the woman who wakes up early for it, the soul who resists the lullaby of a quiet life and instead chooses to wrestle with destiny. Ask yourself, are you building your dream or are you maintaining your comfort? Because you cannot do both. One requires sacrifice, the other demands none, and returns nothing. Comfort never gave birth to power. It never built a business, it never wrote a book, it never stood on a stage or changed the world, but desire did, faith did, persistence did, and all three are forged in the fire of discomfort. You want success. Then break the cage, not tomorrow, now. Open your eyes to the invisible habits that have lulled you into living below your calling. Look around at your routines, your excuses, your rationalizations. Ask yourself, who is this life really serving, the strong self or the weak one? The strong self lives in vision, the weak self lives in habit, the strong self embraces the unknown, the weak self clings to the familiar, and every single day, by every single choice, you are feeding one or the other. Do not wait for permission to change. Do not wait for fear to disappear. Do not wait for the world to believe in you. Step out of the cage, break it if you must, because the comfort you cherish today is the very thing keeping your greatness locked behind its bars.